Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Mortgage Matters. As always, my name is Stephen Padernacht. I am a associate broker with Keller Williams, located in the Bronx. Today is Veterans Day here, and I figured it would make the most sense for us to touch on topics that affect veterans the most. As we're all aware, there's a lot of programs out there that are geared towards allowing veterans different options when it comes to becoming homeowners. And I have another guest with me today, Christian, who was with me the last 2 weeks, and we're going to talk a little bit about the VA loans and how they are geared towards helping veterans. For me, Veterans Day is something that is extremely important here in this country. I think that it's one of the most underrated holidays, to be honest, but it should be way more important to people because, I feel that veterans do or give the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, they literally are putting their lives out there on a limb for us and for our freedoms, just to be able to do this live stream right now. I mean, there's veterans out there that are fighting for our freedoms. So this is a topic that is extremely important to me, and I'm really glad that I was able to be here to start explaining some options for veterans so that they can become homeowners. So I'm going to welcome in our guest, and we will get started. Christian.
Hello, sir. How are you?
What's going on, my man? How you doing?
Just living the dream, doing the mortgage industry, grinding it out as usual. How about you?
I'm good. I was very happy to see that the rates started going in the right direction this week.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything. You might jinx it. Don't jinx it. Yeah, we did see a nice dip in the last week or so. I was able to lower some rates for people that I already had locked on the high side, just to protect it from going higher. We do have a policy that allows us to lower the rate. So without them asking, I saw that they were closing in the next couple of weeks. I dropped some people as much as 0.5% on the rates that had been currently locked in. So it's good to feel like a hero sometimes, especially in the last year in this industry.
And it's funny. You said that you took the initiative, right? Because you're in it, right? Like you and I are both in it every single day, and the buyers and sellers may not be. So you took it upon yourself just to say, hey, you know what? I did this for you. Are you okay with it? And just by the way, you're going to save a couple bucks every month.
Right. Well, it's fulfilling even a promise that I've made to people, because people are, as we were kind of getting into contract and writing the deals, and rates in October jumped significantly. People were really getting nervous, and I said, look, we do have a policy that allows us to reduce your rate if they go down before you close. So, it makes them feel better, but it's not an empty promise, So when I saw the rates drop, they're not watching the market every day, every minute and live like I am. So as soon as I saw the opportunity, and even in my sales meeting, I told the loan officers that I manage, like, look at your pipelines, look who's closing, and let's, reduce those rates that we promised. So, it was a good day. It's been a couple of good days.
I'm huge into compound interest and the way the way the mechanisms work. So you're able to, if you lower somebody's rate, let's just say you're able to lower it 0.5 point. You're talking about now being able to, over the course of that 30-year mortgage, save them thousands and thousands of dollars in interest payments. Correct?
Oh, yeah. When you think about, one client I saved, it was $250 less a month on that reduction. So you multiply that by 360 months, that's $90,000 over 360 months saved. Now they'll probably refinance like everybody else if and when rates go down. But even in the short term, for $250, even over 2 years, it's a $6,000 savings. So it means a lot.
It's nice to tell your clients, hey, take that money, put it in your pocket, put it towards something else.
Yeah. No, it's a good day. Absolutely.
What I like to tell clients is, I say, listen, you've got 12 months in a year with mortgage payments, make one extra payment per year, And I think that over the course of a 30-year term, that like cuts down their mortgage by like a couple of years, right?
They say 7 to 8 years it'll cut off if you do it, one extra payment a year, but you have to be disciplined to do it, so but yeah, no, it helps, absolutely. Anything helps. Everybody's stretched right now, everybody's dollar's stretched right now. Everything's still more expensive. Gas prices are coming down, but you got everything else is still hyperinflated. People are spending more on this, than they did just a few months ago on the same stuff, so every little bit helps.
Ain't that the truth? I went to the gas pump recently, and I haven't really like looked at it or whatever, but I'm looking at the prices, and I'm just like, what are we doing here? And then you drove down, and now I find myself. I remember when I was a kid, my dad would do this. We'd be driving, and I'm like, we need gas. I'm like, okay, well, gas station's like, no, down the block is cheaper. Like, yeah, it's cheaper by like 5 cents. He's like, yeah, but every penny adds up.
It adds up. It adds up. Yep. That's right.
So Veterans Day, tell me, what does Veterans Day mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great, topic. Obviously, we got, Veterans Day, and my grandfather was a World War II veteran. He flew a bomber. He was a bomber pilot.
Really?
So yeah, my entire family's proud of that. The amount of missions that he had. My father almost went to Vietnam. He enlisted, but actually got hit by a car on Kimball Avenue right before he was about to go in. Almost killed him, but kept him out of Vietnam. But so it's very possible I wouldn't be here had it not been hit by a car on Kimball Avenue in Yonkers.
Wait. I don't want to just gloss over this. This is your father.
My father, yeah.
Had enlisted to go to Vietnam.
He enlisted to go into Vietnam, and right before he was about to go, he was at a party on Kimball Avenue. Somebody came down Kimball Avenue flying in an old Cadillac. There was a group of kids in the, hanging in the street, and I think he killed two of them. I almost killed my father, broke his legs, shot him across the street. He was in the hospital, but because of that, he was out of Vietnam.
Wow.
So wow. Yeah, crazy story.
So, you said your grandfather was in the Army as well, right? Or in the Air Force?
He was a bomber pilot. Yeah.
And that was his father?
That's my mother's father.
Your mother's father. Oh, so you just have it. You have it on both sides there. The pride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As a company, and that's one of the reasons I don't speak a lot about Loan Depot, but one of the things that I really like about being here is that they're exceptionally committed to veterans and VA. VA loans entirely. Most lenders have VA loans as part of their product mix, but as an organization, we're really committed to being one of the top VA lenders in the country. We just promoted a gentleman to run. We have an entire VA council. We have David Smith, who was, I'm actually reading this from prepared statement, but David Smith is a former sergeant in the Army. We just created a new post for him as Vice President of National VA Lending. Wow. Him with the VA Council, we're going to, continue to, lead extensive outreach to the military community. We've been affiliated. Our founder, Anthony Shea, has a longstanding support of the war. You've got a thing called War Heroes on the Water, WHOW, which is a sport fishing tournament with veterans. It continues to be on our focus. The mission's gained incredible traction over the past 6 years. There's been no question it continues to change and save the lives of those who have served our nation selflessly. It's basically, it supports combat wounded veterans as they transition back to civilian life in this fishing tournament we've been doing for the last 6 years.
I think that transition period is so important.
Mm-hmm. Right. We're exceptionally proud of that. And then we also support the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation, the MCSF. It's the country's oldest and largest provider of need-based scholarships for military children. And today happens to be, the 248th anniversary of the founding of the Marines. So it's, can't think of any better way to support them and their families. So again, as an organization, when we do VA loans, we actually, we waive our lender fees. We send out challenge coins, which are, if you're in the military, you would know what these are to the veterans after their loans close. We have our own branded challenge coins. It's a very big focus here at Loan Depot. And unfortunately, we had heard a statistic very recently with our VA council. I don't know, I can't quote the exact percentage, but it was very low. I want to say it was under 20% of veterans actually utilized their VA benefit for a home loan. And that's a very low percentage. It was even lower than 20%, which was a shocking number nationally. And part of the reason is that some don't know about it. I mean, there's, so we try to educate them. I know that, the VA does a good job of doing that also. And there's, VA.gov has all the resources for veterans for all, not only home loans, but all the other benefits that are out there for veterans. But it's also unfortunately part of, in the real estate community, because these loans can be a little trickier to process, but they also allow for 100% financing in a hyper competitive seller's market. Unfortunately, some of them are being pushed, aside for people with larger down payments or cash offers. So some of them that, we have pre-approved that are looking to use the benefit just aren't able to secure homes in a competitive market. But it doesn't mean that they should stop trying. I mean, I have, 2 VA loans in my pipeline right now. We closed a big one for a $900,000 one in New Rochelle, 100% financing just last month. So it's not impossible to get these offers secured. It's really just a matter of, as a real estate agent, having the confidence and being able to present it the right way. Because there are a lot of homeowners that are selling that actually might prefer to sell to a veteran, so you really just don't know.
Let me ask you a question on the pre-approval for the VA loans. Does it say VA loan?
Yeah, we put the VA loan on there. It'll have the percentage finance. The biggest benefit of it is that you can do 100% financing, and there's no mortgage insurance.
No PMI.
No PMI. So the payment is hundreds of dollars less than an FHA loan or conventional loan with a minimum small down payment. So it's a real, it's an excellent benefit. The other cool feature about VA loans is that they're also assumable. And there's been a lot of talk, on social media about assumable mortgages now, because, if you have a veteran, that's selling their house and they have a super low rate from a couple of years ago in the 2s and 3s, and they want to sell it, somebody can actually assume that mortgage as opposed to taking out a new mortgage. So if they have, $400,000 or $500,000 mortgage at 3%, you want to buy that veteran's house, you don't actually have to be a veteran to assume that mortgage. You can assume the VA loan from them and then pay whatever the difference is of the sale price.
Really?
So it's a very cool feature of VA loans also. Yeah.
So the key factors obviously are the 100% financing. You've got no PMI and that they're assumable.
Right.
Well, it just baffles my mind. What was the number you said of people that are actually using VA loans?
Again, I from what I remember, it was in the teens. It was definitely less than 20% nationally veterans that are utilizing their VA loan benefit. So again, it's really just lack of probably enough news out there, which is again why we're, as an organization, we're really committed to put these loans out front so they know about it. Some of them just don't know.
Yeah, I always, when I'm speaking to people and hey, I want to buy a house. All right, cool. Let's sit down. Let's do our buyer's consultation. First, I start to get the motivating factors. Why do you want to buy a home? Oh, I want to live in a better neighborhood. Why? Who does that affect? How will it affect them? And then once we start going through the motions, it's okay. So tell me about your financial situation. And one of the first questions I ask them is, are you in the military, or do you have a dependent that's in the military, right? Because a VA loan is not necessarily for the like a dependent. Am I correct?
No, you're incorrect about that. It's only for the veteran and their spouse.
Okay.
So you can't pass it down to children or dependents or anything like that. I know there are some like insurance policies, things like that you can actually, if you're related to a service member, you can apply for it, but VA loans are only for the veteran and their spouse.
Okay. So,
but we do get a lot of NYPD, especially in our area, that are veterans, so I've done a lot of VA loans for NYPD, so a lot of them are coming out of the military, going into, becoming police officers. So just because we don't have a military base around here doesn't mean that there's not plenty of veterans that could benefit from this.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, listen, so personally, when somebody tells me they have a VA loan, I take a bit of extra pride in trying to find them a home, just because I feel like it's just, you see all the myths, right? Like what happened and I don't want to get political at all, but like how some of the veterans were treated when they came back from certain wars. So I think it's important for us on the professional level, right? Because we're in professional services at the end of the day, to try to help these veterans. I mean, I did a buddy of mine was in the Marines. When he got out of the Marines, I think he was, I don't know, maybe 25, 26. He bought his first house in Yonkers. And then, over the course of, he lived there for about 10 years, outgrew the house, it went and then put it on the market, made I don't want to say tremendous, but made a really nice profit. And then from there was able to then pivot into another house.
Right.
All because of the initial VA loan that he took when he was 25 years old. And he was smart enough, and somebody told him, unfortunately it wasn't me, but somebody had advised him, like, hey, listen, you have this opportunity, make sure you take advantage of it. And he did,
Right. I mean, I've had, VA loans where, they're also getting a full seller's concession, which is when you're rolling the closing costs into the price of the house. So I've had people, that, veterans that literally they'll make a deposit when they sign the contract for, as little as $5,000-$10,000. The closing costs are rolled into the mortgage on top of the 100% financing. So they're actually getting their initial deposit back and financing the entire thing.
Let me ask you a question. The way seller's concessions work, I just want to clarify this. So the appraisal still has to be there, right? So like if the house appraises at $400,000 and the closing costs are $20,000, you can't necessarily those $20K. The seller has to take a bit of a haircut.
The seller's taking it off the price, correct? So you need this. Because I get that question a lot. Actually, I'll have people ask me, can I roll my closing costs into the mortgage? And that is something that's out there. On a refinance, when you're taking out a new mortgage to pay off your existing mortgage, that's how it's commonly done. We pay, because if we're paying off a mortgage, we can add the closing costs to that new loan. On a purchase, though, you need the cooperation of the seller. A seller's concession is basically the seller conceding to giving you that money back as a credit for your closing costs. So if they're selling it for $500,000, and they're giving you $20,000 back, they're actually getting $480. And off the purchase price, and they're giving you the $20,000 off the purchase price. So concessions were originally, started in that way. It was a way to incentivize buyers to buy homes that might have been sitting on the market, or builders that are having, building subdivisions that are having trouble, selling them. That is an incentive. It's been worked around over the years where people are started actually adding it to the price of what the seller wants. But that's not how it was originally, intended to be used.
Unless you luck out and the house appraises over, correct?
Well, right. And that happened. In this market, that's happening even more than you can believe. Even with inflated prices, we're still getting appraised values over, the bid up price, just because the sale comps are keeping pace, with, even now.
Yeah. It's so important, like, to just stay on top of trends and what's going on out here that, listen, just doing this with you on a weekly basis, I get more educated. So I can imagine the people that are watching and the views, and it's just so helpful for people to get this information.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm happy to help.
Tell me, so you said VA loans are a little bit trickier than regular loans. So we talked about the advantages. Can we just run through some of the
they've changed the guidelines even in recent years, along with FHA, to make them less tricky. There used to be a little more documentation needed, 2 years tax returns, things like that. So if you weren't getting those items up front, something came up on a tax return where the income needs to be reduced. Those were, tripping hazards with certain, no longer there. So the documentation standards are really the same as a conventional loan at this point. The one thing to look out at as a real estate agent, it's really the only loan that requires a pest inspection to be done on the house. That's, most people do that anyway. You're inspecting the house for termites or, things like that. That's that's the only one document that we actually need from the inspection report is the pest inspection. So knowing that one thing up front can save you time, because of seeing loans that, get slowed up because the loan officer didn't know that up front. And then they're told later and they got to get an inspector back to the house, things like that. So,
inspection.
There's some other, kind of quirky guidelines when it comes to income calculations, and also I lost my train of thought on that one, but there was like rental. If they can use rental income on multifamilies, things like that. Again, it's not overly complicated. They have to get a certificate of eligibility from the Department of Veteran Affairs, which is a very simple process. If they have their DD-214, which is our discharge paperwork, You go into the Department of Veteran Affairs website, you plug in the information, and it gives you basically the certificate of eligibility, which is the VA's assurance that they're going to insure the loan.
Of course.
So another common misconception about VA loans: people think that the VA actually provides the loan. The loan is not provided by the VA. The VA is insuring the loan. So lenders like us and banks are able to provide these mortgages at 100% financing because it's insured by the VA.
Which
that certificate of eligibility.
PMI, right? That's why there's no PMI, because the VA is
right. So the VA is insuring, basically the 20% of what normally somebody would put down to buy a house. They're insuring that, and the certificate of eligibility tells the lender that this particular veteran, is eligible for the insurance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the federal government is giving the mortgage. The VA is basically insuring. So like if somebody, whatever, God forbid,
the federal government is not giving the mortgage. We're giving the mortgage. The lenders are providing the mortgage. They're backing it.
Wow. Yeah. I think it's so helpful for people. And, I personally, when you go through and you're like, okay, I want to be a real estate agent. Okay, why do you want to be a real estate agent? For me, I've learned over the past 19 years that the reason why, one of my main goals is to help people achieve generational wealth. And this tool is such a valuable tool for people to be able to do that. And they just don't know about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what I mean. It's just that it's literally just people just don't know about it. Or, again, they're being told, VA loans can take longer. It's not a strong offer. It's being, there's multiple reasons why they would be, even if they know about it, it could be talked out of using it, so.
That whole not a strong offer, to me personally, like, I don't know if you can get a stronger offer. And I asked the question earlier of if the VA if it said VA loan on the pre-approval. The reason why I asked that is because there's such stringent rules about how and what you can disclose to the sellers when presenting an offer. I feel like, listen, for me, it's beneficial to have that on the pre-approval, because the seller may want to sell to a veteran, and that allows us to tell them that without actually having to cross any fair housing.
Right. I had another case in Rochelle a few years back, where I got on the phone with the seller of the house, which is usually unusual. I'm always vetting pre-approvals with listing agents. Mm-hmm. But in this particular one, like, the seller themselves wanted to speak to me about the VA loan, and they were happy to do it. Like, he was, they actually wanted to give the family the house because he was, a veteran. Who's actually a disabled veteran, so they but they just the seller didn't really know enough about the loan. So, I had a conversation with the actual seller of the house, and that was a win. They got the house, so, and it's the same thing. It was like purchase price somewhere in the 800s, 100% financing. It was just, such a slam dunk.
Yeah. I try to think about different ways that I could educate people. And I think that, on One Key, on the MLS, I don't know if you have access as a lender, but there's a down payment resource tab. And on that tab, it tells you all of the different areas qualify for different sort of down payment assistance. When it comes to VA loans, it's anywhere in the 50 states. Is that correct? Or is there certain areas that it's not eligible?
Yeah. No, it's all 50 states. It's a national program, Yeah.
And multifamilies as well?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, I think we covered the VA loans.
Yeah, no, it's again, it's the best time of the year to be talking about them. We're making a big push as an organization to really get these loans out front. So veterans know about it, they utilize it. It can be utilized more than once. Especially in an event of a relocation. I've done them where somebody had a house in Georgia. It was his first house. He's moving up here, but he's being relocated. You can actually, by exception, get about a second VA loan. So it's got a lot of flexible options in there, and people really just need to know more about it.
If I'm correct, you can't have two VA loans at the same time, though, correct? Like, you have to sell that.
No, but you can in that event. In the event of a relocation, you can utilize. You can have two at the same time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look at that. I see so much useful information today. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But you're right about, typically, if somebody's moving down the block, they can't have them. That's a different story with VA and FHA. You have to refinance out of the loan and, into something conventional, but then utilize it.
I imagine there's some sort of waiver or something that you need to sign if you are relocating so that way they'll allow it.
Oh, we would know about the relocation, especially with the work, if they're starting a new job, and they're being relocated either through the military or starting a new job, that would be, we document all that information. Yes.
And that makes sense, right? Because think about it. Like my cousin, her son, who is in the Army, he just bought a house. I think I might have froze. Did I freeze? Can you hear me, Christian?
I hear you fine.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe just froze on my end. But my cousin who bought a house, he's in the Army. He bought a house right near his base where he's stationed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not staying there forever, but at some point, I guess he'll obviously come back home or relocate somewhere else. So I guess that makes sense.
All right, and he can convert that into an investment property when he leaves. And if he wants to keep the house and rent it out, he's free to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, Christian, as always.